Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to News Dose. There's been a lot of rumors floating around here recently, especially when it comes to Xbox. This is typically how things work right before E3, where publishers are a little bit more silent, but at the same time, insiders get all kinds of new information as E3 plans are in full force. Well, we did get a confirmation about Xbox's E3 plans today, and we also got some very credible information about the upcoming Bethesda game, Starfield. So we'll talk about both of those, plus a legendary game is set to return, and the Nintendo Switch will be getting a nice port later on this year, so make sure to stay tuned for all that. First though, let's start off with yet another Xbox Game Pass Day 1 release. This is actually a July release, so it's still a couple months away, but the Ascent got an official release date for July 29th, which means we already have one Xbox Game Pass game to look forward to in July. Actually, in the comments, I've seen several of you all excited about this game since it was first announced, so I know some of you all will be really happy with an official release date, and even better yet, you won't even have to wait all that long. For those who don't already know about this game though, The Ascent is an action isometric RPG set in a cyberpunk world, and previews did start to go out this week. I definitely would recommend watching those to see if you might be interested. From what I've seen, it sounds and looks pretty good. If you do like the cyberpunk setting, this game really has that part down. Its setting both looks really good and atmospheric. However, even though this is listed as an action RPG and similar to something like, let's say, Diablo, it does play kind of like a twin-stick shooter. So this could be an interesting combination. I am curious as to how this game will turn out, but that's the beauty of having something like Xbox Game Pass. The Ascent looks like a solid game, and if you are a subscriber, you might as well go ahead and try it out, and maybe you'll have an absolute blast with it. As an added bonus, this is a 4-player co-op game as well, so you can even bring your friends along with you. Thinking about it though, without knowing the June and July lineups, the next couple months could be really strong for Xbox Game Pass. The Ascent has already been confirmed, and I am expecting a Psychonauts 2 release date here soon as well. I'm really hoping for a June release with that game because I've been looking forward to it for such a long time. But yeah, let me know what you think about The Ascent. Now, we also got a new Nintendo Switch game to talk about. We did go over this a few weeks ago as I believe it was rated somewhere if I'm correct, but it's now been confirmed Ni no Kuni 2 Princess Edition will be available on the Switch starting September 17th. So right away, I just want to go ahead and say this is a good game, and it's a good fit for the Nintendo Switch. It's been out on a PS4 and PC since 2018, but because it has that Studio Ghibli art style to it, it's gonna pop on a mobile Switch screen. I actually owned the first game on the Switch myself, and PS3 for that matter, and I do prefer it on the Switch thanks to it being in handheld mode. It's just a good looking game on the Switch in my opinion, and I expect more of that with Ni no Kuni 2. I don't know why, but I've always preferred JRPGs on handhelds, so I'm actually really happy to see Ni no Kuni 2 make its way to the Switch where more people can enjoy it. Plus, the first game has been available on the Switch for quite some time, as I just mentioned, so now you can complete your collections with the sequel and hopefully a third game in the future as well. If you haven't played these games already though, I would recommend them. I do prefer the first game myself, though the sequel is still good. Ni no Kuni, in my opinion, is one of the better created JRPG franchises within the last 10 years. The visuals are beautiful, they have magical worlds, they have heartfelt stories, and they're just good overall games. Definitely check them out if you do like JRPGs. The first game has been out for quite a while, and again, Ni no Kuni 2 will release on the Switch September 17th. Moving on though, here recently there's been a lot of exciting game releases. I mean, just in the last 30 days, we got new Pokemon Snap, Judgment, Returnal, Resident Evil Village, and the Mass Effect Collection. That's a lot of games in a short period of time, and the thing is, we still have 2 more noteworthy releases just within the next week. In fact, they both released the same day. I hate when that happens, but Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne HD and Biomutant will both be out on May 25th. Now, Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne reviews have already been coming out, and it's been doing well with an 82 overall score on the Switch, but we're actually going to be talking about Biomutant today. This game was announced a long time ago, and from day one, it was a game that looked very promising. It's an ambitious game being developed by a smaller team, but I absolutely love the art style in this game. I think it has some of the most unique visuals I've seen in quite some time, and it really stands out. It goes beyond just the visuals though. As they expanded on Biomutant, it looks like it's going to be a fun game as well. However, fans have waited for a long time to play this game, so now we just need to wait and hope it turns out to be as good as it looks. We need both good gameplay and good performance. That is one thing about this particular release though, and you see this with every new generation. Because Biomutant has been in development for such a long time, and it was built by a small team, they did decide to focus on last generation consoles, being the PS4 and Xbox One. Now, you can play this game on the Xbox Series and PS5 via backwards compatibility, but it's still a backwards compatible game. Granted, it does reportedly run at 4K 60 frames per second on the Xbox Series X, so it runs really well on the Xbox Series via backwards compatibility, though the PS5 has some kind of technical issue, so it instead will run at 1080p at 60 frames per second at launch. It will be upscaled to 4K, but it is a 1080p game. I assume that will get fixed up, but this has put the PS5's backwards compatibility mode under a bit of a spotlight. The Xbox Series consistently seems to outperform the PS5 when it comes to backwards compatible games. Xbox has put more of an emphasis on backwards compatibility this generation and its smart delivery, so it seems like it's been easier for developers to get their games running on the Xbox Series X. Still though, this seems like a rather unordinary and rather large gap, and something else might be happening here. Either way, hopefully that all gets fixed up here soon, and even better yet, the good news here is that they did confirm that they will release a native Xbox Series and PS5 version in the quote-unquote nearish future. That is great news for those who were disappointed in the lack of a next-generation version at launch, and it will also help out with that PS5 version. Regardless, I just hope Biomutant turns out to be as good as it looks because this game really does look excellent in my opinion. Let's talk about Xbox though. They've been in the rumor mill all month long, as you'd expect pre-E3, and we actually got an answer for two of those rumors today. Now this first one is actually a confirmation. Head of Xbox Game Studios Matt Booty reportedly talked about some of their upcoming E3 plans with a French publication, and also talked about some of the Xbox studios. And a few interesting things was said here. He did confirm that Xbox and Bethesda will hold a joint event which will of course be a part of E3 and possibly the Summer Game Fest as well. We talked about this a few weeks ago, but this could be big. This is the first event since Xbox acquired Bethesda, so we're going to see how their dynamic works together. That part alone is really interesting, but what I'm really curious about is how long will this event be? Typically, Xbox and Bethesda holds their own individual events. Xbox, of course, will show some of their first-party games, but they also talk about third-party games as well because, yeah, they are a platform holder. That should absolutely be expected, and usually their event goes anywhere between 1 to 2 hours long. And that's the thing, Bethesda is a big publisher, and they have pretty lengthy events as well. I mean, they have several studios, so I'm curious how they combine these two events together, and how long will it be? Maybe they can condense it a little bit to shorten its length. There is a rumor that games like Hellblade 2 and Everwild won't be there, but with both Xbox and Bethesda making some announcements at E3, I do think this is going to be a really exciting E3 for Xbox. Now, with that said, one of the games that you should absolutely expect to be there is Bethesda's upcoming Starfield. There's been a lot of talk about this game here recently, and this is an important game for both Xbox and Bethesda. It's Bethesda's first new IP in decades, and with their track record of games like Elder Scrolls and Fallout, there's high expectations for this to be yet another great Bethesda-developed game. It's also more than likely an Xbox exclusive, so this will be a big release. However, we don't know much about this game other than a few leaked pictures and that it's some kind of sci-fi space game. Well, according to Jason Schreier, which is a very credible insider, says that it will be at E3 where they will tease a release date for late 2022. And yes, you did hear that right. There's been a lot of rumors here recently about a Starfield release date, and for a while it looked like it would be a holiday release, and then it was believed to be early 2022, but Jason Schreier says those are in fact wrong. According to him, the Starfield team was very small until 2019 when Fallout 76 finished up, and he's been hearing it will release far later than what rumors have been suggesting. So here we have different insiders saying different things. But Jason Schreier does have a good track record and obviously has a lot of sources across the industry. He is a legit journalist and insider, so there is a good reason to take this information serious. Of course, we'll get confirmation about this whole topic one way or the other come E3, but let me just say this. No matter when Starfield releases, we should not be upset. If it is a late 2022 release, that does not mean it was delayed. The release date was never confirmed in the first place, and as I've said in the past, you might as well expect games to be pushed back, not just for this year, but for the next few years. With the pandemic and work conditions that developers have been under here recently, games across the industry was majorly affected. Almost every publisher and developer was affected in some shape or form. So let's just kind of keep that in mind going forward, but let's get excited to finally see Starfield. Regardless of its release date, I am just ready to see what this game is. In other news, a big gaming franchise is set to return. This kind of came out of nowhere and it's getting a lot of buzz for good reason. So check this out, Deep Silver is bringing back TimeSplitters. That's right, the legendary first-person shooter is coming back, and it gets even better than that. Deep Silver is actually forming a new studio with the original creators Steve Ellis and David Doak. In fact, this studio will be named Free Radical Design, meaning they're keeping the studio name and everything. And for fans of these games, that's all extremely exciting, but I am going to caution patience here. I know you all have waited for a very long time. I believe the last TimeSplitters game released in 2005, from what it sounds like, this newly formed studio was just created and it's not even fully assembled yet. In fact, they mentioned development for this game has not started, so we probably won't get a full release for another 4 or 5 years. At the same time though, this is still really exciting. They brought back the original talent, the studio's name is the same, and TimeSplitters is finally coming back after fans have been asking for a return for years and years. It will be interesting to see what this game will be like though. If you are a TimeSplitters fan, let me know in the comments below on what you want from a modern TimeSplitters game. On to the poll of the day though, Nintendo announced a new amiibo for Zelda Skyward Sword HD. The amiibo itself looks really good. I do think it's one of the best looking amiibos to date, but there has been some controversy surrounding this figure. Nintendo decided to lock a quality of life fast travel feature behind this $25 amiibo. So with that said, I asked you all if you thought it was okay to lock quality of life features behind an amiibo. Well, pretty much all of you said no. Only 7% of you said you didn't mind. So yeah, it's pretty obvious gamers did not like this move. There was already a lot of pushback over the price of Zelda Skyward Sword HD, and this amiibo thing just kind of added to that narrative of it being overpriced. That's the thing though, even though some fans aren't necessarily happy with decisions like this, and I agree with you all here, they still sell well. Those amiibos are already selling out, and of course, scalpers ruin everything. That's typical by this point. Though I don't think the reason for those amiibos selling out has anything to do with this feature. It's just an attractive figure like I said, so collectors are absolutely going to want this thing. I do hope Nintendo listens though, and hopefully they hesitate on adding quality of life features to amiibos in the future. Anyways though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.